It is Sunday night, December 10th, 2017. It was 3-0. They came back, but they fell just a little short. Sharks lose this one 4-3 to the Minnesota Wild in overtime, thanks to Nino Niederreiter's overtime goal. And we'll be here to tell you all about it tonight here on Teal Town After Dark. Oh my. Hi everyone, it is yours truly, Eric Cura. You can follow me on Twitter at PuckGuy14. Of course, if you want to be a part of the show, you know how to do it. Let's talk that hockey using the hashtag TealTownUSA. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and the YouTube. Just search TealTownUSA. You know how to do it. We've hit 609 subscribers. We are on a roll. We're 15 away from $2,000 on the Twitter machine. Make it happen. And we'll make this show happen with the likes of the guy who spells his name the right way, Mr. Eric Landy.
Yep. That's me. And the laundry did get put away. So all we had company over. So there's some blankets hanging out over there.
So essentially it is all Landy's fault because he didn't have his laundry put away.
Yeah.
All right. And also joining us tonight, I don't know if we could still call you the new guy. We'll call you Alex Martinet.
I'll go with that one.
It was a good night for all Alexes, apparently.
It's not really such a good thing.
Very true. Very true. All right. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and we'll talk about this 4-3 loss to the Minnesota Wild tonight on Alaska Airlines 2-for-1 voucher night. No fancy graphic for that. I'm sorry. But let's talk about this game as the Sharks came out really poorly. You kind of expected that with everything that they dealt with last night, losing 5-0. They started getting it going early with Ryan Murphy's first goal in the year, assisted by Zucker and Stahl at 4:19. A power play goal, the only power play goal they give up on the homestand, which is nice to see, to make it 1-0 Minnesota. And then at 10:27, Eric Stahl with his 11th, his first of 2 goals on the evening from Suter and Granlund, make it 2-0 Minnesota. Landy, just one of those nights where they get off to a rough start, and they outshot them 10-7 in the first, but didn't seem like it.
No, and it took a long time to get to that point where they were getting shots on net. I believe in the first 10 minutes, the shot clock was something stupid like 7-1 or 7-2 in that first 10 minutes of the game. It really looked like the Sharks were that team that was coming off of a back-to-back and kind of tiptoeing in. And very much similar to the Carolina game where they just get down, get outshot, and dig themselves quite a big hole in that first period.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. But Alex, we've seen this happen before. They've let the two get the early things going here, and it's starting to be a concern overall for this team as this trend keeps going.
It's more of the Sharks are an older team in the league, and back-to-backs are something we haven't been good at this season. Speed is also a bigger factor. The Wild have a ton of it. I know they're not really doing so well this season, but in terms of this was a second-round Western Conference team. They were one of those teams to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Although
kind of that wounded animal syndrome too. They came off a win in overtime their last game, but still very, very uneven. Very much like the Sharks, where you don't really know what you're going to get on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they came out like gangbusters early on last night against Ottawa, and tonight they kind of I don't want to say walked in like they needed some Starbucks, but
They walked in like they needed Starbucks.
yeah. Moving on to the second period, where the Sharks still outshot the Wild 9-8. However, a slightly controversial goal there. Eric Stahl, bangs it in on the for his second of the game from Murphy and Granlund. Granlund with 2 assists on the night. Stahl his second of the game. 3-0 Minnesota. Controversy. I only in word only. Let's be real here. They looked at the review. They weren't sure if the puck completely crossed the line. Of course, it did. We're not going to get into the controversy of last night, because then we would just not. Never mind. Besides that point, getting onward, then PDB wants to challenge goaltender interference, and there was some contact. Where as opposed to where we saw footsies, that Jonas Donskoy had earlier in the season. This one had some contact, but the league allowed this and forced the Sharks to lose their timeout. Might have come back to haunt them down the road, but nonetheless, it was a good goal. It's 3-0, and here we go again, boys. Down 3-0, and it's like, now what?
Well, let's go over that goal, and just kind of break it down. I mean, Jones kind of comes out of his net, pushes off a little bit on, I believe it's not Stahl in front of the net, but it was. It might have been Stahl. I'm not exactly sure. I have to look at who scored that. Let's see. It was Stahl from Murphy and Granlund. So it might have been Murphy that was parked outside in front of the net. But, there's some contact there. Jones initiates the contact. And I think that's exactly why this wasn't reversed, because it was Jones doing the initiating of the contact. Right. It was in the blue paint, and, a goaltender has the right to his blue paint, has the right to initiate that contact if he chooses. However, I don't really know how that affects a goaltending interference challenge. And, I mean, common sense and logic would tell you that if the goalie's initiating that contact, then he kind of forfeits his right to goalie interference prior to that goal is scored. But, I mean, we've just seen so many different what's the word I'm looking for? Iterations on goaltender interference. We've seen so many different calls one way or another on goaltender interference. So to me, at least, sure, it's worth a shot, but these things, I mean, they're just going to be super subjective. And originally it was called a goal on the ice anyways. So unless you have some clear-cut evidence, I just don't think it's worth challenging.
Yeah, and it was a little iffy, I would have said, to say the least, on it. But nonetheless, it happens. We lose the timeout. The Sharks are down 3-0. There's a little bit of you. It's like, ugh, why now? Why now? Here we go again. 3-0. We'll maybe get the 2 teaser goals and then call it a night. But oh well, and then that's it. Au contraire, my friends. Au contraire. The Sharks then had the Wild had a parade to the penalty box, but unfortunately, Sharks couldn't get onto that. But then it was a 5-on-3 briefly for a little bit, and sure enough, Brent Burns gets on the score sheet late in the period. 53 seconds left in the period to make it 3-1 from Thornton and Hurdle. To quote Jim Carrey in a well-known movie, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, and heck, I mean, I was talking to Puck Guy in the intermission. I was just saying, man, if they don't score on that 5-on-3, it's going to be such a wasted opportunity. It's going to be so piss poor. And I, was just even speaking to my family in between. It's like, look, if the Sharks don't score on that 5-on-3, they're not winning this game. Now, luckily, they came and they did score, but those first 4 power plays looked like the old power play was back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
I mean, just very stagnant, wanting to do cross ice passes on the perimeter of the umbrella, nothing really getting in close. I think the only time that the exception was made was on the 3rd power play where Jumbo lays it in on Hurdle's tape, right clear, dead center in the slot. Hurdle puts it right in the crest to Stalock, and that was it. But that 5-on-3 was piss poor for the first minute and 30 seconds, and then Burnsy just willed that to the net.
Yeah, by a great pass by Thornton. I'm glad that Burnsy is actually showing up. It seems like ever since the Vegas game where he had that shootout goal, he seems like he's picked up his game a little bit more. I don't know if that's just seeing the puck go in the net, but I think it was 3 goals in the last 4 games.
Yeah, 4 goals in the last 10 games is what they mentioned up on the broadcast tonight.
It was 3 goals in the last 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's moving along. Sorry, go ahead.
No, he's just been. You could just see after he scored that second goal, that it seemed like he was more into the game, impressing. I don't know if that's something to do with it, but at least he's doing much better in the first half of the season.
Right. I think he's finally come out of that lull. And confidence for these guys has always been a big factor. I mean, when Burnsy is not confident, you can see him shrug his shoulders. You can see him not bring the puck through the neutral zone. He wants to make those quick outlet passes instead of keeping the puck on his tape. When Burns is confident and the Burns that we know and love and Norris Trophy winning Burns, it's when he's carrying that puck through the neutral zone, bursting into the offensive zone and laying one on net, just being a one-man wrecking crew. It kind of reminds me of that Dan Boyle goal that he scored against the Minnesota Wild, where he just makes Ryan Suter look like a freaking chump. and that's what Burns, when he is at his best, that's what he does. Absolutely.
And the other thing is that when Burnsy starts to get going, he starts to get going. And speaking of getting going, it's Kevin Lacey with an echo.
You're right. I got to plug in my microphone. Hang on.
Okay. We'll keep talking third period. You're good. Thank you for the heads up, Alex. We go to the third period now, where the power play gets going again. Burnsy power play. Now we're getting there. 3-2 Sharks, 2:41 from Pavelski. Power play starting to come together a little bit. They had a little hiccup here and there in the last week or so, but they've been pretty solid. 2 for 7 on the power play. Yeah, not the greatest percentage, but you're getting 2 power play goals tonight. That's not bad.
Right. I think overall net positive. However, I'm still very concerned about having Pavelski with Thornton, Couture, Burns. Hurdle seems to be the only one that really is driving any kind of chances to the net. But it's stagnant to me. Alex, what do you think? Do you think it's stagnant?
I mean, just this recent stretch, we went from 28th in power play to 17th. So, I've said it before. I don't think the power play chances really do matter. I think it's more just about the momentum that you get from it. And we've seen it more often not getting a goal or a lack of good opportunity come back at us. And, we got 2 out of 7, but 2 out of 7 is still not great. It looked better, but it's still not where I want it to be.
It's not great, but it's still in the top third of the league when you look at it from a percentage perspective. Yeah. I mean, anything's better than 5%. I'm being facetious, but the 5% they were on before.
Well, right. But I think the thing is, though, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but you really started seeing that power play kick into gear when Peter DeBoer mixed up the personnel on it, when it wasn't a really comfortable power play, when it was, Couture with Hurdle on that second unit, or Pavelski and Heed and Carlson, I think, made it up there, or Tierney made it up there on the power play unit. So, I mean, to me, changing the personnel is what sparked the old unit to get its act back together. But now that the old unit's been together for 1 to 2 games, this might be the third game where it's been back together, they seem comfortable again.
It's something you can have comfortable, but you can have lackadaisical with the comfort at times, and that's something that they want to avoid, and that's what they were dealing with, early on in the year when they were just not getting going. Now that they kind of gotten out of their same old power play ideas, it seems like they're slowly starting to come together a little bit, and I think it's helping out everybody. But I think more so than Brent Burns, guys. I think that's kind of set him up, that it's not just always in that little corner on the right side by the point that he's got to be. He's been getting more in the middle of the ice to get his shots on now.
Yeah, that was something that I noticed a lot in the third period tonight, was the Sharks were being a little tricky, but good kind of tricky with the puck. Like, I liked that they were kind of breaking away from the system, not just on the power play, but in their 5-on-5 chances. When they got back into that game to score the tying goal, they had the puck for what felt like 2 solid minutes, never giving it up. But they weren't just doing pass, like cross pass, forward pass, or whatever. Pavelski was doing a lot of switching up, skating forwards, backwards, pass the puck behind. I thought they did a really good job of being shifty tonight instead of being predictable.
Yeah. No, I think that's going to go a long way for this team.
Absolutely.
Another thing that's going to go a long way for this team is the confidence to come back from a 3-0 deficit, which they've done for the second time in 3 games, and that was from an absolutely insane offensive push that ended up with Tomas Hertl getting his 7th on the season from DeMello and Heed at 14:59. Game tied. All the momentum is over to the Sharks. Minnesota is forced to call a timeout. I mean, Alex, this is dream. They get in the confidence to come back from 3-0 down.
Like leading up to that third goal, LeBanc, Hurdle seemed to be carrying the torch for that period for just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think the shots were like 15-5, the Sharks during the third period. And that's usually a very good sign. But I'm more impressed with those two, the youngsters of the team, showing up.
Yeah, it was 7-14. Just to put a quick on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's still like where you want to be if you're going to come back.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, I don't want to. For me, I think LeBanc is still finding his place on the team, but he had like 1 or 2 goals that should have counted if he just put it back in. But I like his game. I just wonder where he fits on this team.
LeBanc?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because right now he's piling up the assists like nobody's business. I mean, yesterday it was a 2-assist night, and tonight, I mean, had some really, really strong plays on the puck. I've liked his game. I think it kind of took a little bit of a lull, but now it's kind of coming back in. I like him being up there with Hurdle and with Couture. I think he doesn't have to think as much being on that line. I don't think he feels like he has to be the trigger man, which is good, because when the kid's inside his head, he doesn't play with his best asset, which is his hockey instincts.
Or his speed.
Yep. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I think that Kevin LeBanc he's starting to come around. I'd like for him to come around because he's 1 game away from being waiver eligible. So he's going to have to stick on this club at this point or be sent down tomorrow. I do think that Kevin LeBanc has worked a lot on his speed this season. I would like to see him with someone else who's even faster than him, because I feel like with him and Thornton and Pavelski, he's the fastest one out there, and he needs someone to lead the charge ahead of him to open up the ice. But as far as his playmaking goes, we've complained about him not shooting enough. So as long as he's making good passes, and being productive, that's all we can really ask for a kid who's only 21 years old.
So do you prefer Carlson with Thornton and Pavelski?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely think that Thornton and Pavelski either need some kind of puck retriever or they need some kind of big body presence. I think that those are the two elements that work on that line. I think if you put a pure sniper up there, it just makes Jumbo feel like he's got a path to defer to the shooter. If he's got kind of a speedster who doesn't really who's not really looking for the pass, but just kind of being a disruptor, like I think about a Sorensen, that doesn't really work on that line either. He really either needs some kind of puck retriever, like a Carlson, or some kind of big body, like a back when Hurdle was up there last year.
Completely.
No, I agree with you, Landy. I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, I think I think if there are two that looked good with the Joes, it's Milkman and maybe even Hurdle. Hurdle had some nice time with them during the Cup final run, but I think Melker is just works a little bit better with the Joes.
I think, and it's been reiterated multiple times that Melker forces other players to work hard, right? I mean, because of the way that he is so relentless on the puck, he is just forcing these other players to work harder. And Jumbo, I think, is kind of being ginger with that knee. If I'm going to be, saying it straight, I think he is trying to conserve himself. But when Melker's up there, he feels like, hey, I got to keep up with him.
I can see that. I do think Thornton has definitely, like, this week has been Thornton's best week of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's definitely starting. He's got a hitch in his step. Maybe it is because Carlson's on his line right now, like you said. But he's I don't know. He's just been so much more impactful this week, and it's great to see. And that's what the Sharks need.
Yeah, Jumbo's really turned it around lately, and I'm trying to pull up his game logs here really quick. On this homestand, he has 5 points, a goal, and 4 assists on this homestand. So he's really stepped it up in that matter.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just looking over I'm looking over the time on ice stats tonight, guys. And you know what? This team is really, really missing Donskoy and Barclay Goodrow, believe it or not, because I'm looking at this ice time splits. Ryan Carpenter played 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 42 seconds, not even 6 minutes.
I don't even think he had a shift in the third, did he?
No,
he didn't.
Sorensen had 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 seconds. Hansen was also pretty low at 9 minutes. So I just, that's Todd McClellan-esque levels of ice time for a fourth line.
I mean, put it this way, guys. Outside Burns, your other time on ice leaders were Joe Thornton and Joe Pavelski, all within just a shade under 26 minutes tonight. I mean, yeah, they were down 3-0 and they were trying to make a run, but wow, that's crazy on the legs that these guys have.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, to finish recapping the scoring, it was a crazy overtime. Minnesota just put on a freaking puck possession clinic, as I tweeted out. And it looked like the Sharks had some chances, but then in the end, it was Nino Niederreiter unassisted at 3:26 to get his 10th on the season, who's been, I think he's kind of come into his own this year. I think he's really stepped up his game, in my opinion, as Minnesota wins its 4-3 the final.
Yeah. Yeah, I think last year he really, it was about when it happened. But the first period, even at the first period when it was 2-0, I was sitting there watching, thinking, if the Sharks tie this up and it goes to overtime, and I was at 2-0, I'm thinking to myself, God, I hope Niederreiter never has the puck. Because I feel like the only time I ever see Minnesota highlights is Niederreiter on a breakaway score.
In overtime, yeah.
Yeah, in overtime.
Yeah, Niederreiter, I mean, that kid has just got some wheels. He is really damn quick.
What do you guys think of playing Thornton in the 3-3, starting with Thornton?
Go ahead, Kevin. I have my own opinion on this one.
I love that. I didn't get to mention this on Thursday because when we were living it up in the arena, but because Puck Guy and I were at that game, and in my head, I started to say, I do not understand why they put freaking Joe Thornton out in overtime ever. And I got to and then Pavelski made the pass to Burns, and I'm like, wait, just wait. Yay! But still, again, like tonight, when I saw Thornton taking the opening faceoff for overtime, I'm like, this better work again.
Right? Yeah, no, and that's why I was thinking the same thing. Is like, okay, why are we having these guys out here? And then was it me or did Pavelski seem like he was out there forever in overtime?
Yeah, and then when they got hemmed in their own zone with Couture and Hurdle and Vlasic, who does DeBoer put out there? He goes and puts Pavelski out there, who had just taken a 1 and 30-second shift. He gave him all of 20, 30 seconds and pat him on the back like, Pavs, go help him out.
Yeah, see, that's where I wish Carlson would have gotten some ice time. Because Carlson, maybe because Donskoy's not on the team, I feel like Donskoy and Carlson's kind of a pair that they put out there in overtime. But Alex, I didn't get your thoughts on Thornton in OT.
I don't think he should be even starting on 3-3 or even the second line of the 3-3. I just don't get it. This league is built on speed now, and Thornton just doesn't have that, especially in overtime, where speed is going to be a killer, and then he gives up that turnover at the very, very beginning of the blue line. I'm just not a fan of why would he do that.
And the other players out there need to recognize that Thornton needs to not be the last man back in that situation.
Oh my God, yeah. When Stahl tripped him up and everybody was yelling for a penalty, I mean, you could even hear it through the speakers at home. But it's hilarious because it's just you see Joe flailing on the ice, oh, I'm trying to reach it with my stick, but I can't get back.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
And when it was, the overtime was really the most boring overtime I think I've seen this season. I don't know what it is about Minnesota and the way that they keep the puck in overtime, but man, that was boring to watch.
I mean, this is back-to-back times where I think having Thornton cost us a potential win. The Vegas game where it was 5-4. Why would you put a Thornton outside again when Vegas has that speed? Carolina again, but to your point, I did not understand why he was out there again. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Puck Guy, you mentioned Minnesota put on a puck handling clinic in OT. The crazy part is the main stretch where they had the puck, they had 2 defensemen out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you never see in 3-on-3. But they had Dumba as a forward and they had Brodin back. And that was mind-boggling to me.
A defenseman playing forward? That sounds a little weird.
It's almost like you want Burns to forward.
Right.
No, we're not. We're not even touching that. But anyhow, I think Dumba's got enough skill to play. He's got enough skill to play.
Oh, for sure. But still, you just, even with Erik Karlsson, you never see Ottawa do that. Then again, Ottawa never reaches OT anymore.
Low blow.
And apparently they're already asking for their trade lists in the
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that this afternoon too. Yeah. Even Karlsson, there's a chance he won't be a Senator. I also heard that Patches and Price are on the trade block as well.
That's crazy.
Could they potentially trade Matt Duchene, who they just got from
Dude, Alex, earlier today in my head, I'm just walking down the hall of my house and I just stopped and went, huh, what if they trade Matt Duchene again? That would be crazy.
Right? Go figure. A couple of things here. We want to welcome all those who were watching Brody and Curtis. This is Teal Town After Dark after the Sharks lose in overtime to the Wild 4-3. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit up tealtownusa.com for all your stuff for our wonderful team. With that, I will bid you adieu because yours truly has work at 3 a.m. You guys take it off. I've given you all the graphics. Have at it. Be good. Be safe, and don't put too much into the dip jar, guys. So have a great night.
We should totally put the wrong graphics up right now. Like, Technology After Dark, sponsored by Audible. Wait a minute.
Yeah, totally. All right, guys. Have fun. Take care.
All right, Buckeye. Have a good one. Well, all right. Well, I mean, that kind of pretty much covers the game tonight, and I guess there's some ancillary things around there that we were talking about. Some people are bringing up, how long is Donskoy going to be out? and to believe, the fact that we haven't heard anything is kind of scary.
It's a rib injury. I think it was ribs, isn't it?
Oh, I think Alex is on to something because I missed the Philly game entirely, but I heard it was some kind of mid-body hit that he absorbed or something.
It was like a cross check, but like the thing is that he didn't really show any pain until tomorrow or until the next day. So it could be 100 different things.
It could be a rib bruise, a bone bruise. I mean, because if it's not, I don't know, man. Because if it's high up on the ribs, then you're gonna have that inhale and exhale lung expansion thing where it hurts to breathe. But I mean, I don't know if it's a broken rib. I mean, that's a few weeks. He'll be out. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a broken rib. We won't see him until after Christmas.
Yeah,
the Sharks do have an easy schedule right now, so I wonder if they're playing their odds.
It could be. They could be. And I mean, another thing that we're going to have to go over too is we're having a log jam of defensemen, guys. I think something that was really kind of interesting that they brought up on the cast tonight was just that Paul Martin. I mean, he's not going to be back till next week. I think he's playing 2 games in Arizona, and then they're going to play 2 games in San Jose. So he's going to get a total of 4 on his rehab stint. But I don't know how you take out Tim Heat at this point.
No, neither do I. Who's your top 6 defensemen?
In a perfect world, my top 6 goes down like this: Vlasic, Braun, Burns, Ryan, Heed, Brendan Dillon.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's how I do it, and I'd have either Martin or DeMello as my 7th defenseman. I think what I like about DeMello is that he is showing a little bit more offensive flair than I think we've seen him before, which is kind of nice. I mean, he did have that bummer of a giveaway today in overtime, but I mean, also, he's a young defenseman. He's going to make some stupid plays that he shouldn't be doing. But
yeah,
I mean,
he's a risk taker, and that's the thing that scares me, especially for a defenseman, and with a defenseman with average speed too. Because I don't really think DeMello is slow, but I don't think he's anywhere near the fastest defenseman on the team.
I think he's a decent defenseman. It's just that he doesn't have the shooting capability to match it.
I kind of see him playing a similar role to Justin Braun when Justin Braun first came in to the Sharks. Very much touted as a two-way defenseman, where he's not really super defensively oriented, but also got a little bit of upside offensively. Where I think Heat is just a pure offensive defenseman. I don't see him as a two-way.
Does tonight I know a lot of people are down on Martin right now. I think Paul Martin, this rehab assignment is going to be great for him. It's definitely going to be great for the Barracuda, because the Barracuda defensively have been a complete disaster, and I think Martin's tutelage down there will help them a lot. But from being able to kind of observe DeMello in the past few games, do you feel more comfortable having Martin as a 7th D or continuing with DeMello, like when Martin comes back up? I mean,
well, I have to see when Martin does come back what he's going to be like. I mean, because if he's still going to be as slow as he's been showing, I don't think that there's a place for him here. I really don't. But that's me. What do you think, Alex?
Same thing. I just think that the league's moving to a faster speed, and it seems like he can't really handle transition defense too well like he did last season. And I'd rather have DeMello up here just to get some experience.
Well, I mean, DeMello can't go back. I mean, he's got to go through waivers. So,
but is a team really going to claim DeMello?
I would. I mean, if let's say I'm Colorado, and I'm star for defenseman, or if I'm Ottawa and I'm star for defenseman, you know, outside of Erickson, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you do.
Carlson, sorry, Eric Carlson.
I'm gonna this is completely off the wall, but I'm gonna ask you anyway.
Off the wall.
If the Sharks are somehow able to move Paul Martin's contract, would you look at a guy like Jason Garrison, who's been buried in Vegas's farm system? Because that's basically the same cap hit. Can Jason Garrison, but I'm sure Vegas would be happy to just off that salary. But at the same time, would a guy like him be an improvement over Martin, or is it kind of just apples and oranges?
I don't know. Alex, what do you think?
It would probably require the Sharks to take on Paul Martin's contract. So we have the cap space, but there has to be someone better than Garrison. And I don't really know too much about him, but I'm just figuring that we need someone in the top three defensemen to help solidify that end.
I agree with that. I'm just thinking, because last night on Teal Town USA After Dark, check it out on replay, folks. There was a debate about, do the Sharks have enough players to trade chips? There we go.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they do, but I think a guy like Garrison is the best that they can get on the market right now. That's the thing. That's why I posed it to you guys, because I don't know if it is a better option.
Yeah, Gen X pointing out Garrison has more offensive upside for the power play, but the foot speed is a wash.
Okay.
And I think that if the foot speed is going to be a watch, and if we're going to, if we're going to be really, I don't know, scraping at the bottom of the barrel here, I'd rather have Martin than
he's a known commodity.
He's a known commodity, and I think his defensive positioning is a little bit more sound than Garrison, because Garrison to me I feel like he takes kind of those same risks, but he doesn't have the speed to make up for it. So. Okay. I'm just looking. I'm looking at.
Do you think the Sharks should be sellers or buyers during the trade window, whatever window that pops up?
It depends on where they're at in the standings. I mean, if they are able to hold down this third spot, I see them as buyers.
Yeah, I'm so reluctant. I think the Sharks are so reluctant to be sellers. I wish the Sharks would just be sellers one of these times and just get ready for next year, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I don't think that's this year. I don't. I think that they're going to try and ride Jumbo one last time. There was a guy that was commenting in here that said he was a family friend or whatever and thinks that Thornton might retire, but at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if he does retire, because that knee, I mean, that this year has really, really proved that he's barely hanging on with a thread here, speed-wise.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see him get traded to somewhere like Toronto, but even Toronto, he doesn't fit in that system.
Yeah.
So where would you trade Joe Thornton that works for both for best teams?
And Toronto can't fit an additional $8 million in their cap, if I recall, as well.
Well, that too.
I mean, they've got $5.5 million in LTIR.
Oh, I didn't even think they had that.
Yeah, they have right now. Right now, they're actually over.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, without LTIR, they are 1.9 million over, but they've got Nathan Horton on forever LTIR and Joffrey Lupul on forever LTIR. Lupul is the interesting one though, because he had to get that second opinion from doctors to really, to really be on LTIR. So it was kind of funny, but
yeah.
Retaining salary and all of that. I just don't think Jumbo would want to do that. I mean, if the Sharks are really out, and he's gonna face the music. He's not gonna want to move on. He's just gonna want to finish the season as a Shark and then retire. I don't see him chasing something that he probably would already come to grips that he doesn't have the speed.
Yeah, I think Martin and Ward are more. What do I want to say? Have a higher chance of retiring after the season than Thornton. Not to say Thornton who couldn't, but I think those guys are on their last season.
I think Martin's probably going to stay because it's a 2-year deal left or 2 years left.
Well, don't they both have 2 years left? I'm not sure. I know Martin does.
Well, let's head over to Cap Friendly.
Yeah, I know Martin for sure has another year after this.
Yeah.
Ward, I'm not sure.
Paul Martin has one more year, 2018-19 at 4.85 mil.
Yeah.
And Ward is up at the end of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, so you get 3.25 back from Ward's deal. And then who else is UFA after this year?
Hansen's a UFA after the year.
Yeah, you get $2 million back on UFA. Well, and I'm just looking at the salary structure here. You know who they really need to sign come July 1st is Tim Heed. He's going to be a UFA next year. So not after next year's season. So July 1st of this year, you can sign him to an extension. The Sharks need to do that.
Yeah. Tim Heed is on a one-way contract this year, though, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a one year show me. From what I understand from my sources, Tim Heed is very happy in San Jose. He's moved his family. They love it in the Bay Area. So even though Heed is a UFA after the year, I'm not worried about that right now.
Right. I think Heed is a very top priority. I also think that Tierney, if the Sharks are really going to keep Tierney in the fold, he's really, really proven that he's a really good commodity. I really like what I've seen out of Tierney this year, the growth that he's making, and Goodrow. Both of those two have made really, really big strides, especially on the penalty kill, really making that their own and making some really damn good plays.
Goodrow on the PK has been very surprising for me. And Alex, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you about Tierney in a second. Goodrow has been really surprising on the PK because for the last 2 years, a lot of us have questioned Goodrow's heart on the ice. And sometimes I still question that. But putting him on the PK is almost kind of like what you're saying with Carlson being put on Thornton's line to get Thornton's butt going. I feel like Goodrow being on the PK is gotten him moving, and unfortunately he got hurt blocking that shot, and I believe it's a foot injury because I know he was limping around back to his car after the game. But Alex, I want to ask you, how do you feel about Tierney's play? Because I completely regurgitate what Landy just said.
I love Tierney. I think he's helped solidify that third line. But the problem is I think he's going to get traded and he's one of the 3 trade baits you can, or trade chips that you can possibly have. Tierney, LeBanc, and potentially Hurdle. I can see them moving away from Hurdle.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think he's like, this is his 1-year deal, and this is his show me year, and he hasn't really done much besides the first 10 games of the season.
Who, Hurdle?
Yep.
Real? No, I mean Hurdle had what, 2 assists last night?
Yeah, but he was slumping leading up to that. I don't think he's plays consistent enough where you can potentially have him as a second liner or even a first liner.
I completely disagree. Right? You're looking at the stats right now. Hurdle's your 3rd highest scoring forward, and you know what? Chris Tierney is like got 7 goals. I mean, he's second on the team in goals behind Logan, and he's tied with Hurdle, and he's tied with Donskoy. Like, if you have a goal starved team, and you go out and you're going to trade those 2 for a goal scorer, isn't that like robbing Peter to pay Paul here? I mean, unless we think that Hurdle and Tierney, this is just a flash in the pan. But my argument against that is they're both really young. I mean, this could be, they could just have been late bloomers, and Hurdle, is 24. I mean, he's starting to enter into the prime of his career. And then you go over to Tierney, he's 23. I mean, he's just getting into the launching pad of his career. If they do trade either one of those 2, it's so short-sighted. It's so short-sighted.
I just wonder, do you want to give him a 3-year deal, 5-year deal at the end of the offseason? And has he consistently proved he's worth that?
With Couture, I mean, have you seen his possession stats?
No, I'm talking about with Hurdle.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. With Couture and Hurdle together, have you seen his possession stats? He's a monster. And,
Okay.
and I mean, I don't know. I just feel like if you do trade him, it's really blindsided.
You would only trade Hurdle if you feel like you can't, if he's not a long-term, pillar of the Sharks. And that's why I would say he's a trade chip. You see what's out there. If there's someone with a, decent contract that we can work around it, but I think Hurdle gets you more options than he doesn't.
Yeah, I hate to do it, but I'm going to play both sides here. The chat,
Somebody's got
you guys are at odds, and I'm supposed to be the tiebreaker, and I'm going to just keep it tied. But the folks in the chat want to keep Hurdle. It seems like that seems to be the consensus.
Yeah,
I agree about Hurdle's consistency is not at a level that I want it to be. However, playing what Landy just said, I think Hurdle the last month has been much better than he was in October. But then back to what Alex said, I really think Hurdle and Tierney, like if the Sharks are going to trade those guys, it needs to happen before next season. And I love Tierney. I don't want him to go. But to me, it all depends on if the Sharks brass really believes in Chris Tierney, and because sad to say it, but there are a lot of players behind Tierney in the depth chart that can fill his role, which is again why I'm very happy that Tierney is taking a step forward now. I just don't know if he can continue to take steps forward.
All right, and I mean, case in point number 1 of that was supposed to be Ryan Carpenter. Well, all I kept hearing this entire offseason was, look at this Ryan Carpenter kid. He's going to be really good. He was a leading scorer for the Barracuda. He's going to take up that mantle, and he's going to transition. But right now, I mean, Ryan Carpenter looks to me more like a John McCarthy than a Chris Tierney.
I agree.
Yeah, sadly, I agree.
What is that piece that's going to come in and fill? I mean, are we talking Chartier? But he's had hella concussion issues.
Chartier is like a concussion away from his career being over. I'm sorry to say it. No, I'm thinking more like in O'Regan. And there's another one I can't think of him right now. But Carpenter, the problem with Carpenter is he's more of a complementary player than Tierney is. I do think Tierney can can produce more offense on his own. Carpenter, I think where he equates to Tierney is they're both just as good defensively and defensively responsible, and face-offs, they both are great on face-offs. Offensively, I don't think they match up together, but if Tierney were to, say, the Sharks acquire another center at some point and Tierney plays the fourth line like he did last year, why can't it just be Carpenter? Right now, Tierney's not on the fourth line, and I think that's where the disparity is.
What about trading Dell?
His trade value is not any higher than right now. I mean,
there's some random dude on Twitter who keeps arguing and says Jones is the one that has to be traded. Guy.
And actually, that's actually a really, really good segue, because I want to talk about the goaltending. And
I don't want to trade either of them. Everyone, be quiet.
and you know what? I mean, I hate to say this, and I hate to be the person that says this, but man, you know, Martin Jones has not looked good since that injury. And I don't know if that's pure happenstance and coincidence, but I'm going to pull up a little graphic here that Puck Guy left me with. He's like, hey, nice. Landy, use this. And here it is. Nice. This is December stats for Martin Jones.
Eek.
And it does not look pretty.
By the way, JB Pilot said Adam Haluka. That is the guy I was thinking. But continue.
So going against Tampa Bay, I mean, he gives up 5 goals on 43 shots. Not too bad. But Washington gives up 4 goals on 29 shots. Carolina, 4 goals on 25 shots. Minnesota, 4 goals on 24 shots. Now, Carolina, there's 2 goals, 3 goals that he can't really be faulted for. Washington, I'll give him a pass on maybe 1 or 2. Tonight, I did not like his positioning. I didn't like the fact that on that Eric Stahl goal, he was just he was pushing off way too much, way too far out, and just did not look comfortable on his skates. So, I mean, as much as we want to say, oh, Dell, we want to trade him, at this point, I mean, if we're seeing Jones falter a little bit, we might need a safety blanket.
Now is Dell a good goalie in the Shark system, or is he just a good goalie in general? Because there's a difference. Because we've seen it time again where a goalie like potentially like Vesatoskala has a couple of good years and then gets traded or goes to free agency to Toronto. So, what is his value? What is his talent?
That's a phenomenal question, and I don't know, because I mean, I would have said Scott Darling. Seriously?
Yeah.
And he's done just fine.
Cam Talbot?
Yeah. Cam Talbot's another one. So
Antti Ranta. I mean,
Ranta's a little different, but
he's injury prone.
Well, there's that too. But Ranta played most of his career in Finland before that, so that's a little different. But yeah, I don't know, but I think the Sharks can't afford to lose Aaron Dell for the fact that Troy Grosnick, I just don't see him being more than an elite AHL goalie. And right now he had his knee scoped and he's out for a while. So there's nobody else unless Bebo is going to be the backup. Martin Jones, that graphic's a little misleading for me anyway, because Tampa and Washington, it's all offense all the time.
Yep.
And I can't fault him for the Carolina game at all. In fact, I thought he was brilliant in the Carolina game. But the goals tonight that you're talking about, especially the Stahl goal, that shows where Martin Jones is not looking comfortable. I feel like when he's just there in the net, being very immobile, that works to his advantage. Like that's when he's on his game. When he's coming out and being aggressive, typically goalies want to be aggressive. I don't think it works for Jones. And you pointed out that stall goal was the perfect example. He ran right into Burns, or Burns ran into him. I don't know, but neither of them were in position. So
yeah, I'm more on the Rob Iman train, excuse me, that he's not 100% yet. I don't think he is, and I think that's what we're seeing is his being uncomfortable in the crease has to do with injury and less has to do with just skill. I mean, you were going to have those people that come out of the woodwork that always say, "Oh, well, look at his overall save percentage. It's hovers 913. That's just average goaltending." I mean, I don't know.
Dell's last. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to me, though, right now, if you want to trade Dell for a piece, the only place that I'm really looking at that wants a backup goalie or a goalie in general like that is going to be Edmonton. And Edmonton, first off, do you want to trade Dell to Edmonton? Do you want to give any part of Edmonton, make them better? I say no. And
no. Nope.
Even, unless you're getting Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and that's not going to happen, unless you're getting something stupid value like that, there's no point in trading him in the division. So who else is looking for a really good backup goalie?
Dell's last 3 games have been against Philadelphia, Florida, and Ottawa. And those 3 teams aren't doing so well in the standings.
Yeah. That's
yeah. So I don't think we've actually seen a game where Dell has stolen one against a really great opponent quite yet. Maybe, the trend right now is to play Jones against the top teams. And, I think we'd be looking at things a little bit differently if Dell started against Washington or whatever.
Right.
So, I do think he's a little bit overrated, but if you can get something for him, that's what I would do.
Right. I mean, I think Bebo has proven he can back up. I mean, in the AHL, he's got decent numbers. He's got 918. So, I mean, the way that I would put this is this: if you get some kind of deal that comes straight from somebody smoking some crack, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to give you a top 6 forward for Dell." Okay, go ahead, do it. I mean, we've got some depth, but outside of that, I think it's kind of a pipe dream, to be quite honest. Because what are you going to get for a backup goaltender like that? Pennies on the dollar, and you're probably going to get some kind of like low draft pick.
And then, and the other part of it is, there are other teams in the league. Someone, I think Rob Iman may have mentioned it, that Michael Hutchinson is sitting there as the 4th string goalie in Winnipeg when he was the starting goalie for the Jets last year when Hellebuck faltered. So there are other teams that are willing to probably give away goalies for free that at least in their minds are probably on the same level as Aaron Dell.
Right. I totally agree. So I just, at this point, I think the best option for a trade partner is going to be somebody like Montreal, where they're kind of in that in between of, are we going to blow this thing up, or are we going to try and tweak to get something else out of it? I mean, Montreal, you're looking at a guy in Marc Bergevin who is on the hot seat right now. He's going to make some stupid decisions. I know that with that roster, he already has. So is there a way to pull out a Galchenyuk? You're what you really want to do is try and find somebody who's kind of down on their luck, looking for some way to get out of their situation. And I look at Galchenyuk, and I go, okay, man, that he's very, very interesting player. He put up some really good scoring, 2-3 years ago. Can we get him out of Montreal, get him out of that French pressure cooker, and get him, somewhere where he can really play and really have some pieces around him. I mean, putting Galchenyuk, LeBanc, and Meyer together. I mean, that would be kind of an interesting line to look at. So,
I would say the other landing destination is the Rangers. I just want to say just to say it as a backup to God, what's the goalie's name?
Lundqvist?
Yeah, Lundqvist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just if something happens to him, you are going to be out of the playoff window, and they're only 1 point out of the wild card. So that would be a spot I would look at more than compared to Montreal, which Montreal I think is just going to tank. They're going to be in the sell mode probably here from March.
Right, but I mean, to everybody asking, well, why would they trade? I think that the Sharks have a few extra defensive pieces that they could probably part with. I mean, Joakim Ryan, I mean, as much as I love him and as much as I think he's part of the future, if you're really banking on getting another forward, that's a piece that you're going to have to get rid of. That's a big trade piece. DeMello, I think, has brought his stock up. I don't think his stock is right now, his perceived stock is not what his value is. I think you'd be getting, 75 cents on the dollar for DeMello. And really, it will hinge upon whether or not Martin can play. If Martin can play, and it really was just that ankle that was bothering him, and he really just needed to bring it up to speed, then you can deal from a position of strength with the backup defense. But if it's not, then you got to keep the young defenseman, because you can't rely on Martin more than, 30 games.
I think that Montreal would be looking for a guy like Dylan or Braun, though. I think because they've suffered for years from having tiny defensemen like Joakim Ryan. I mean, they had Mike Weaver in their top four for a while. So I think that Montreal, and if they're going to blow it up, they're going to blow it up with guys that are bigger than 5'11".
True. I mean, it would. I don't know how Julius Bergman's doing, if he's still a tire fire. Or
I
not,
would. Hey, I know I'm gonna totally sound unprofessional here, but hey, it's Teal Town After Dark. No, I would be pleasantly happy if the Sharks traded Julius Bergman and got something. Like, I don't think Julius Bergman has any NHL potential. Yeah. So if they can, New Jersey was convinced that Mirko Mueller was worth a second and a third round pick. So, and I mean, at least he's on the NHL roster now. If they can convince someone that Julius Bergman can play in the NHL, go for it, Sharks.
It's funny, Gen X. We won't go too much off the deep end with the Sharks fantasy trade talk, because I mean these are they really are pipe dreams. But I think the overall point is we've got to find a trade partner who is under the gun, who needs to make a deal that is facing some real big heat, in their marketplace to get something done. I think that's you're going to be looking for that wounded animal to trade with. I think somebody who's going to make a stupid decision. I think that's my biggest point is just that it's going to be up to those trade partners. I mean, you look at Colorado maybe over in the East. I mean, Buffalo certainly, Ottawa. Who the hell knows what they're doing? Florida. I mean, Florida's on perpetual rebuild, for Christ's sake, and so is Philadelphia for that matter. So, I mean,
Florida is about 2 losses away from putting Bob Bugner out on their decor.
I know, and so I mean, those are really what you're going to have to look for. So, I mean, I don't know. Quickly, let's go around the league. Today was a fairly light night on the NHL schedule. We had 4 games tonight, including ours. Arizona is beaten by Chicago 3-1.
They were eaten by Chicago?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, might as well. Beaten by Chicago.
Oh.
St. Louis beats Buffalo 3-2 in overtime. I don't even know how that got to overtime, but All right. St. Louis playing with fire there.
Let's just remember, somehow I picked St. Louis to win the President's Trophy this year. And although we're only 2 months into the season, yay, I got one, sort of.
It's the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
Don't put any faith in quite yet.
Yeah, exactly. Don't put all your eggs in one basket there, especially not in the Jake Allen basket, because
Right.
he has a tendency to fumble those kinds of things. And then Toronto beats Edmonton 1-0 in the battle of saviors of their prospective Canadian markets.
And Matthews was a last minute scratch too, so he wouldn't even. That was a good game though. That was a good game.
1-0, and oh my God, you just wonder what the hell is Edmonton gonna do? I mean, Peter Chiarelli has just screwed up this team so bad. I mean, I don't know who the hell was making the decision to bring in Peter Chiarelli, but it was a bad decision. It really was.
I would say that you have another week until Todd McClellan gets fired.
I agree, and that's going to be really shitty because Tom McClellan's a good coach, but that is a construction issue on that team. It's not Todd's fault at all. When you've got Zach Cassian and you've got Zach Cassian and Milan Lucic on the same team, that's going to be a hella slow team.
Yeah, and that's definitely not his play style. But, I can't name another current ex-Sharks coach that has done well outside of his tenure.
Well, I mean, Sutter, won 2 cups.
But that's like the one exception.
Okay.
Yeah. Ron didn't do so well. God, who else? Like, it seems like it's just Sutter, and that's about it.
Well, it was Sutter, then to Wilson, then to T-Mac, right?
Al Sims had a wonderful career after. Oh, wait. No, he didn't. Well, and then speaking of the predictions, I picked the Blues to win the President's Trophy. I also picked the Oilers to represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals.
So you're one for two.
You're not the only one, Kevin. I think pretty much everybody at the Hockey Central panel or whatever, were kind of like bending over backwards to blow Edmonton because they were going to anoint them the Stanley Cup champions. They were going to go against Toronto and beat Toronto.
Brother.
I just laugh.
I do think that most of Edmonton's problems it's just the injuries. Like, they've had a rough quarter, but I think they're too far back to actually make some way up.
But we said this about Anaheim last year, though, and Anaheim won the division. So as far back as they are, I'm not going to count them out yet.
Well, look, I think the other thing too. They have such a problem. Edmonton has such a problem with left wing depth. They traded like one of the best left wingers in the game in Taylor Hall for a shitty defenseman. He's not even. I wouldn't even say he's mediocre. I just say shitty for what they got. For what they gave. I mean, I don't know. I just think Peter Chiarelli's an idiot.
Edmonton currently has only 26 points.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's enough time to make up that. You would have to go on like a 5-game win streak, every month to actually catch up, and I just don't think they have the depth to actually do that.
Mirko 323. Edmonton keeps lying to themselves, calling Larson a top 2 defenseman when he really realistically a 4-5. Yeah, I totally agree.
Norris Trophy candidate Chris Russell also.
What is it? Andre Sekera, is going to be the next coming of Bobby Orr or fucking Paul Coffey.
Gen X, by the way, in the chat says Kevin Constantine hasn't even done well in the WHL since he left.
Drew Downey chimes in. I feel Sutter should go back to San Jose. Yeah, so he can get locked out of San Jose's lockers too.
Oh, I thought he meant Ron. We were going to reacquire Ron Sutter for the 4th time.
Oh my God! And M Hackle says a Norris Trophy candidate who scores on his own goal.
Oh, that was right. Hey, he scored 2 goals. He just scored 1 for each team in that game.
Yeah.
Art Ross of own goals, Chris Russell.
I felt bad for him, man.
Yeah, that was
a rough one.
Mirko coming up with another whopper. Don't forget Patrick Maroon, guys, goal scoring dynamo.
And now you're just reminding me of what I was saying last year about how Edmonton wasn't going to do anything. I was like, they're all the same player, 1, 2, 3 left wing. So I guess I was a year too late about Edmonton sucking.
Yeah, I really actually though, Rob Iman chiming in with a really, really good point.
Early.
If Peter DeBoer is going to be out of here, Barry Trotz, I like that. Even though he has no neck, I feel bad for the guy.
Well, there's going to be the coaching carousel. I know Alex has really been on the coaching carousel talk, but yeah, I mean with DeBoer, I still think Guy Boucher, especially with what's going on in Ottawa, I never liked the fit, even though they went to the conference finals. That might blow up. McClellan, who knows with Vigneault at this point? There's going to be a lot going on, I think.
Yeah, well, and maybe Laviolette too in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's the one I expect the most.
Really?
Yeah. My money's on Vigneault. I think that Vigneault is probably going to be out of there if the Rangers don't make it, because he was kind of already on the hot seat at the beginning of the year anyways.
It wouldn't surprise me also if Detroit fires a head coach.
I agree. Oh man, poor Jeff Blashill. I think the world of Jeff Blashill. I don't think he deserves to be fired, but I do think he's on the hot seat. And Bill Peters in Carolina, same story.
Well, but I mean, like Carolina, I think has been making steady progress. I think they give Bill Peters an extra year.
I hope so. I think he's a damn good coach.
Yeah, Jeff Blashill. I feel bad for him too.
Return of the neck.
Yeah. I really love what Doug Waite's done with the Islanders. Man, he's really brought that team back. And if JT does stay, if John Tavares does stay in the Island, I think it's because of Waite. He's got a really good rapport with his players. I think that was a really good hiring by the Islanders. I mean, I know that they always kind of pegged him as heir apparent to Capuano, but I think that was a really solid choice for that job there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Paxton in Philly too. He might be on his way out.
Yeah, that very, very true. And I mean, it's pretty funny because the guy that we kind of highlighted as being at most at risk at the beginning of the year was Paul Maurice. I mean, in my mind, now he's got really good job security.
He will never. He was on the hot seat in Carolina for like 8 years. He will never get let go by. He must have some kind of internal pull. Like he must have some kind of lobbying for every. I don't know what I'm even talking about at this point. Let's just move on.
I really like what Vancouver, the coach in Vancouver,
Travis Green, yeah, really maximizing the most out of that roster, which had no business being as high as they are in the standings. So Travis Green and Sheldon Keefe, I thought were the two best AHL and Todd Nelson, who only won the Calder Cup last year, are the three best coaches in the AHL, and that's what I really want. If DeBoer goes, Keefe is the guy that I want. So.
Yeah. And I think we'll end it on. On this Gen X, Maurice has nudes of every GM in the league.
That's what I was trying to go with, but I was totally bullying it. Way to go, Gen X.
Joe Quenneville is also on the hot seat in Chicago. Joe Quenneville's perpetually been on the hot seat in Chicago.
He's not going to go there. He's in ownership, so I don't want to say he's safe.
Yeah, I would agree too. So anyhow, let's go quickly over the standings and then we'll get out of your hair. We are running a little long, but it tends to happen when me and Lacey are on the same cast. Over in the East, because we saved the West for last because it's a better conference. But Buffalo's in the cellar, followed by Ottawa, Florida, Detroit, Philadelphia, Carolina, Montreal, and New York. They're both Montreal's 5 points out of the wild card. The Rangers are 1 point out of the wild card. Heading up your second wild card is Pittsburgh, followed by the New York Islanders in first wild card. Heading over to the Atlantic, Boston, for some reason, is still third place in that division, but it is the Atlantic after all. Toronto's in second place. Tampa Bay, class of the East, is leading the Atlantic Division. Over in the Metropolitan Division, New Jersey still hanging on to third position, followed by Washington in second, who's had a nice little rebound here in the last couple of weeks. Find themselves now in second spot in Metropolitan. Columbus leading the Metropolitan Division. Over in the Western Conference, at the bottom of the league, the bottom of the league still, Arizona, followed by Edmonton, Colorado, Anaheim, who looked like they were showing some signs of life, still only have 31 points. They're 2 points out of the wild card position, but still kind of floundering a little bit. Their last 10 have not been good. They're 2-4-4. Vancouver, Chicago, and Dallas are all looking in. They're all within 1 point of the wild card. Second wild card position is being held down by Minnesota, Calgary in first wild card position. Over in the Central Division, Winnipeg, who was the darling of the NHL, is now back to third place where they should be. Nashville is in second place, and St. Louis, class of the Western Conference, is in first. Heading over to the Pacific, the Sharks hold third spot with a firm 35 points. Vegas in second spot with 39 points. By the way, we have the same number of games played, so we are 4 points behind them on even footing. Los Angeles has 31 games played, but they've also got 43 points. So Los Angeles, who we thought was kind of a little bit of a mirage, are really, showing us wrong, really showing that sustained offense that they had at the beginning of the year is kind of still there. And they're still pretty good defensively. So kind of interesting, but
they had an interesting trade too a couple of days ago. They moved Nick Dowd, who's a player I loved for years, but a depth guy. They moved him for Jordan Subban. So I guess
that's the youngest, right? The youngest Subban brother?
Yeah. So I guess LA's at the point where they feel like they can offload a couple of pieces and still maintain their standing. So
yeah, and Dowdy brings up a great point. They don't have Carter. They still don't have Carter. So when Carter comes back, that's going to be a tough team to contend with. And you know what? I mean, we kind of snicker at the GM who reloads the coaching turnstile, but it really has worked out for LA. I mean, I think when you go from a suffocating Daryl Sutter to anybody else, you're going to get some offense out of that. But
I think the John Stevens thing is a lot like the Doug Waite situation.
Yeah.
They do remind me a lot of the first year the Sharks had Pierre DeBoer and how you saw this great relief from Todd McClellan. I just wonder if a large part of it's due to Jonathan Quick coming back and actually playing the first half of the season.
I think it's not. Yeah.
But I think that is a greater weight off the shoulders compared to Sutter, who was probably he was 5 years past coaching at that point.
Dowdy also brings up a great point. Pierre Turgeon too is come in and really solidified the offensive coaching on that team, which was a great hire. I mean, look, as much as I hate the Kings, they did a really good solid with Blake as GM there, really, trickling on down. I think you can finally look at the management staff and go, okay, that's pretty respectable. As much as I hate the Kings and hate LA, they've definitely clean house, right? Brought up the correct GM from kind of within the organization, and same thing with John Stevens, making him heir apparent. That's good for LA, and as much as I hate them, it's a much better rivalry when both teams are good, and when all three California teams are just, in the Pacific, leading our division, it makes me so happy, when all the NHL kind of fears coming to California. So, as much as I hate them, I do respect them.
Now, do you think Anaheim could potentially take one of the playoff spots away when they get Getzlaf, when they get 100 different players back? They're only 3 points out of the wild card.
I think that they have a shot at the wild card. I don't think that they have a shot at displacing the Pacific. And I say that because oh God, I hate to say this, but I think Vegas is here to stay in that top 3.
Yeah, they have a light schedule on the way back too.
Yeah, right. That's the thing, is that they've just whatever big obstacle that we see coming in their way to finally let the magic all out of the bag, they just keep staying there, and they're getting Flower back. And we might think Flower is past his prime, but 80% Flower is still better than
Lagasse.
75 75% of the league. So
yeah. And last time you and I were on the show together, Landy, I mentioned it. Will Vegas keep James Neal? I'm still going to hold to that, where Vegas's playoff hopes will rely on whether they trade James Neal or keep him. Because I still think they could trade him and then just bring him back in the offseason via free agency.
Maybe. However, the thing that I'm saying, even if they do trade Neal, is they've banked a lot of extra points. I mean, they've got 39 points with 29 games played. I mean, you look over at Calgary. I mean, they've got 34 points and they've played one more game. You look at Vancouver, they have 32 points and they've played one more game. Same thing with Anaheim. They've got 8 points on Anaheim and played one more game. I mean, so I think it's just that the cushion they've built up.
I think if the Vegas shooting didn't happen and how James Neal is becoming the face of the franchise, you don't want to do that in your first year.
I agree.
But you know what? I mean, McPhee has made forward-thinking moves this entire offseason. I mean, he's by stockpiling the defenseman and not sticking that to people where he could have really bent over people backwards in that expansion draft more than he already did. I think that showed it was a really forward-thinking move. He's a very forward-thinking GM, and it would not surprise me if he tries to pull some kind of package of second-round and first-round draft picks, because he's playing with house money at this point. And Gen X saying Vegas is that team of entire third-line guys that destroys your favorite team in the playoffs during the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend and I at the Carolina game on Thursday were discussing that exactly. Like, Vegas, the reason why they've been so good is they're all leadership. Like, they basically took the leader from every locker room around the league and put them and made them a team. Like, because when you see that team win, you don't see teams go out and celebrate the way they do when they win a game. I mean, you see the Sharks skate to center, half-ass throw their sticks in the air, and then go off to the locker room. Those guys are freaking out there high-fiving each other, jump around all crazy every single time they win. Like, that team is a team, and that's why they're winning.
Yeah, and I think it can't be overstated, too, the shooting and how that brought that team together, and just how they have some kind of pride for their hometown, which is really awesome to see. It's just, it really is amazing to see how that city kind of has come around that team. And they're giving it right back to them. I mean, the team is really doing an awesome job. So anyhow, I think we're going into the hour and 20-minute mark, and we're still, believe it or not, having steady 30 people watching. So we really appreciate it. If you guys wouldn't mind, there's a little red subscribe button down there. We've already passed the 600 mark. I'm really, really hoping to get 1,000 this year before the year's out. I think it might be a little bit of a pipe dream, but hey, you know what? It's that's the mark that I'm going to. So
that's right.
So anyhow, if we can get some more subscribers, that would be awesome. You can also, let me pull up the graphic here while I'm vamping a little bit, but you can also find us on Twitter at Teal Town USA. You can find any of us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Landy. Kevin Lacey's at Kevin Lacey 22 as I pan over the camera to him. Alex Martinet, the newest member of our crew, but Alex is also on Twitter, so go ahead and catch him. He also does some writing on the side. So it's just, it's just growing here, day after day, and we really appreciate all the support from everybody. And let me throw up that graphic You can find us on iTunes, the Google Play Store, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube, of course. I'm Eric Landy for Kevin Lacey and Alex Martinet. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll see you after the game on Thursday. Bye, all.